and this is Phil Beaudry, and we also have Jen Oken with us. And we'll just be presenting technology in the classroom, and so I guess we'll get started. We're first-year university students at, first year in the Faculty of Education university students at St. Boniface University. And so we've done a little bit of research and thought it would be good to share with you guys this morning. So I'll let Phil get started.
Morning, everyone. So I hope you're wearing sneakers because we're going to be going fast this morning. We have 45 minutes. We're going to leave some time for some Q&A. Like Medianic said, we're going to look at some studies. We did some research, and one of the first things we're going to look at very briefly is some of the study results that were generated from two studies, one Canadian, one American. So we're going to briefly look at those. We're going to look at some teaching tools that you can use. The title of our presentation officially in the program is called Connecting to Web Savvy Students. So we found a few programs similar to the previous session. Those of you that were with Desiree, we're going to look at some of the tools that teachers can use to connect with their students. And also we're going to look at a new word for us called your webutation. So basically your online reputation, what that is, both for yourselves and your teachers. Do you know what it is? Do you have one? Your online footprint is more and more, especially nowadays, is extremely important, especially for teachers. So it's something that we're going to briefly look at. So without further ado, this is the first study that we're going to look at. It was conducted, actually it's an ongoing study that's been going on for the last 10 years in the Eastern Township. Eastern Township is in Quebec. The irony here is that obviously Quebec is a majority French province. The school division in this case is an English school division. However, the study was conducted and printed and produced in French. So there is some French content here for those of you that remember your grade 9 French. The main reason that this program, this was essentially called a laptop program, where 10 years ago the dropout rate in the Eastern Township School Division was at 42%. So they had a very, very high dropout rate. They were 67th out of 69 schools as far as dropouts are concerned. So administrators really wanted to address that issue mainly. They wanted to increase the level of quality of education, but also address the dropout issue. So what they did is they instituted the laptop program in order to address that. It's been going on for the last 10 years, and what they did is essentially provided laptops to each student in the school division from grades 3 to 11. So they were, I think, 4,500 laptops. That number jumped up to about 8,000 a few years ago. And the study really aimed at they wanted to look at whether or not it had an impact and in specific areas. So we see here the categories, the writing skills, creativity, teamwork, etc. Total of 15,000 children have been basically looked at in this study. The current sampling that we're going to look at is just over 2,712 students that were studied, and just under 400 teachers took part in the study as well. So obviously there's some pros and cons. We're going to look at some of those very briefly. The main results was that, especially the first three are addressing kind of the negative side, if you will. They found that access to equipment, so mainly access to computers, access to internet. I know it's probably hard to understand nowadays, but there's still some people at home, whether it be teachers, parents or children, that do not have access to internet at home and do not have access to computers. So that's one main challenge of this program, is access to equipment. A large amount of planning time is required. So I've actually had that experience myself in our first practicum in the fall of last year, trying to design and develop courses and lesson plans by integrating technology, and I lived it myself. It takes a great amount of time to prepare and plan. Obviously, maybe the story is quite different if you're 5 years, 2 years, 5 years into teaching, but for someone starting out, there's a lot of time that needs to be invested into planning the lessons in order to integrate technology. Classroom management was also a challenge. That's a kind of a negative that they found, whereas if teachers aren't properly trained or armed with the proper tools, classroom management can be an issue. And other challenges, basically the level of comfort with some students using technology wasn't always there. So those are things that they're still trying to address in the Eastern Township School Division. On the positive side, they found that technology allowed students to write faster, write more, and write better. So students enjoyed writing, enjoyed doing math, enjoyed participating in the curriculum elements when technology was involved. Technology is a very useful tool for 21st century skills. I think it goes without saying that whether we like it or not, technology is a part of our life. So, you know, why not start implementing it in schools? And the main factor, I think, if you ask probably most teachers and teachers in this study as well as the next one we're going to look at, the main point that kept being repeated by teachers is the fact that students are engaged. If we have time, we'll watch a video by the governor, an interview with the governor of the state of Maine, which is the next study we'll look at. But they found that the student engagement, as he says, you know, once students are engaged, you can basically teach them anything. If they're not engaged, you can be Socrates and you won't teach them anything. So that was the main point. And the other thing that came out of the study, and I think it goes without saying, is that the teacher buy-in is of utmost importance. So not only the teacher buy-in, but also structuring those teachers and giving them professional development and the training. You can't just give them laptops, give laptops to all the students and say, okay, go learn. The teachers need to be armed with those proper tools. And if you don't have both those elements together, it simply won't work. So, you know, we pulled some of the graphs, some of the comments and graphs that were in the studies, and as you can see, there's a bit of French here. So this is the perception of students. So if you ask students what are the main advantages to using technology in the classroom, and again, student motivation is at the forefront of those results. If you can just go back, Jen, I think some of the comments here are interesting. These are obviously teacher number 6, teacher number 7. If you want some time to read those, it benefits the students to be able to work with technology so that they continue their education. They will be comfortable working with technology as well as their future fields of working. So, yes.
Sorry, the student said student motivation, or the teacher?
This is perception of students. So this graph. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you for pointing that out. Perception of teachers. Yes, my mistake. My mistake.
Sorry. Next one is students.
I need to practice my French. So yes, these are teacher perspectives, and this was a questionnaire that part of the study was involved a questionnaire that was presented to all the teachers, and they had to answer obviously according to these categories, and motivation kept coming back to the forefront. We see the other ones. That's okay. This is the student perception. So as far as the use of technology to work efficiently in school, this is what they looked at. So we can see that the majority of students felt that always or usually, technology allowed them to work more efficiently in schools, in the classroom setting. So again, this is the perception of students, the advantages to having technology in the classroom according to students. So access to information and resources, something we looked at already, write more and faster, make fewer mistakes, motivation, etc. And again, some comments directly from the students. I think that using computer to do assignments is much more effective than doing it by hand in certain respects for a number of reasons. And there's another comment there. This was a slide that we wanted to include just a bit to the point that I mentioned earlier, is the fact is, it's quite interesting to see that this is the level of connection for teachers. So we still see that 6% of teachers do not have access to internet at home. So it's still, it's a considerable number. It's still something you need to consider if you're going to, implement lesson plans or homework that involves technology. And on the student side, close to 10% of students are still lacking internet connection at home. So you have to be careful. You have to take that into account, whether it's making classroom time available at the end of the day, at the beginning of the day, library use. It's something that can't be ignored if you're implementing technologies. You can't just assume that everybody has a smartphone, everybody has an iPad. It is not the case. So whether it's socioeconomic reasons or new immigrant arrivals, new students from out of the province, they don't always have access to technology. So something to be considered. Certain recommendations that came out of the study was to extend use of laptops to grade 1 and 2, so they wanted to start earlier than grade 3. I think it was Mr. Farthing this morning that mentioned that we have to be careful with that. Screen time is very, especially at the young age, something that really you need to watch out. encourage the development of computer skills to students and teachers. So again, that professional development aspect. Continue offering personal development and training to teachers. In both instances, the laptops were given to students as well as training and personal professional development to teachers. Increase awareness. Excuse me. Continue to research solutions to help equip students and families that don't have access to equipment, and collaborate with other school divisions and educational institutions. For those of you that are interested, we can take your emails at the end. We actually wanted to put this up on we created a website for this presentation, but because we're poor students, we went with the free version of the website, which doesn't allow us to upload more than 10 megs. So the presentation is actually a bit too large. So those of you that are interested, we can make this available to you. Give us your email and we'll email it to you. There's just some sites there where you can access more information and view some videos. So all the links are in the presentation for those of you that want it. The next one we're going to look at is the state of Maine. So ironically enough, Eastern Township is right on the border of Maine, and both of these school divisions are claiming to be the first in their country to implement kind of a statewide or a province-wide or a school division-wide program where they provide laptops to all the students. And Maine was the same scenario. Back in 1999, they had a $71 million surplus that they didn't know what to do with. So yeah, it must be nice. So the ball started rolling with what they could do with that money. It took 2 years or 2 or 3 years to actually figure out what they could do. They obviously studied the aspect of technology. The governor at that time decided to implement the laptop program, and that's where it kind of came from, is that surplus. So this was their main goal, was to transform Maine into the premier state for utilizing technology in kindergarten to grade 12 education in order to prepare students to a future economy that will rely heavily on technology and innovation. So the money was available in 1999. The program didn't start till 2002, and they've been rolling with it since then. So this is another study that kind of looked at the same aspect. It was actually started in grade 7. Their plan was to go, every year incrementally add another, provide the laptops to the students incrementally every year. They started to grade 7, they went to grade 8, the funds ran out. The program's still going on for the middle schools, but it's not available to the same level in the high schools in Maine. So, next slide, please. Again, the same results came out. The improvements on student engagement, student motivation, writing, improved performance in mathematics, and the other key component is 21st century skills. So again, if we have time, we'll watch the video by Governor King, and he makes an important point where nowadays students are, the skills that they need in the workforce, they're related to problem solving, teamwork, critical thinking, and the school system is really designed for one type of student, and not everybody fits that mold. And technology allows you that individualized learning, creative thinking, access to information, etc. So again, some of the stats that we pulled that we found interesting. Percent of students indicating how often they use the laptops. So whether it's working spreadsheets or obviously a few times a week or more often, 70% of them found that researching information is the key. And I mean, we probably all know that as soon as we have a question or need to fix something on the car or the washing machine, we'll go to Google or YouTube, right? So students are doing the same thing. Whether you like it or not, we'll look at a concept a bit later. You probably have heard of the flipped classroom concept, where the classroom time is left for homework and assignments and working with the students individually, and the lessons are actually provided at home via video. So, whether we like it or not, classrooms are almost already flipped, because whatever we're teaching kids nowadays, they have access to on the internet anyway. So, percent of students indicating how often they use their laptops to do the following. So, we can leave you a few minutes to look at that. Obviously, critically analyzed data or graphs for media is the most powerful one. Interacting with classmates, evaluating info obtained on the internet, gathering data.
Actually, the gray is once or less, right?
That's yes, it's a few times a week or more. That's it. Yeah, sorry. And next slide, please. So the discipline teachers teach and the percentage of use of their laptops in instruction. So obviously language arts and science. On the way here this morning, we're listening to the radio, and they were polling the Winnipeg public as to which courses should be taken out of the curriculum. You know, I wonder to see if you can guess which ones they were, but the ones that were, the results of that poll were phys ed, sex ed, and home economics. So yeah, take it out of the program. So that's what we said. It seems to me that's pretty important, but and obviously those aren't here. So let's look at the next graph, please. So whether teachers strongly agree or agree with the statements, I'm able to explore topics in greater depth with my students when we use the laptops. I'm able to teach some types of contents and skills more effectively using laptops. I'm better able to individualize my curriculum to fit students' needs as a result of having the laptops. I'm able to differentiate instruction more effectively because of laptops, and the laptops facilitate my ability to teach my students to be critical thinkers. So a few categories that we thought were important. So these are teacher responses as far as whether or not the availability of laptops has helped them shift their teaching from more teacher-centered, so the stand and deliver method, to a more student-centered. And obviously we see the responses are, most of them, close to 40%, strongly agree with that statement. And the laptops have become such an important tool in my teaching that I cannot imagine teaching without them. So again, close to just over 50% agree with that statement. So very powerful. And one thing that was interesting with the study is that at the beginning, a very high number of teachers were reluctant or kind of against the idea. And over the course of time, it kind of shifted drastically, where now they're at this point where they strongly agree with, they're very receptive and they appreciate having the laptops in their classrooms. But the key point again is that they were provided with training, with education, with professional development, and tech support too, because let's face it, we're not technicians. So they were provided with those people. The deal was made in this case with Apple, and Apple won out the RFP because they were able to provide not only the machines, but also the technical support, the training, and that whole part of the equation that is almost as important, if not more important, than just the machine itself. So that, I think, had a large impact on those reactions from teachers who at first were reluctant and now very appreciative of having that equipment and the knowledge in their baggage. Again, the link, state.me.us, they have a whole portal, if you will, a whole website that is dedicated solely to this initiative. So if you want to jot that down, there's more information. And again, we'll provide the presentation if you'd like to have it. This we found interesting. You probably can't see the sources in the bottom here, but they kind of pulled a variety of educational institutions. And we thought it interesting simply because of the 3 points that we're trying to convey at the top right here, is that we're able to adapt to diverse learning styles. It boosts student motivation, and it enhances the materials being taught. So, and I think that's another important point that Mr. Farthing made this morning, is that it can't just be another way. Back in the day, it was the overhead projector. That was technology in the classroom. Well, this and the whiteboard can't just become another version of that, right? It can't just become another way of delivering the material. It has to be an interactive, dynamic environment, and that's addressed a little bit in this slide here. So I'll pass it over to Maria Nick, who will have a look at some techno-teaching tools.
All right, so we did some research on a few tools that we thought would be useful for teachers to bring more structure and organization into their classrooms. And so we'll start with Remind 101. I'm sure maybe some of you guys have heard about it. What it is, it's a safe way for teachers to text message students and stay in touch with parents. And so it's a one-way texting system. You sign up either by texting a certain number that you get. The teacher will have a username and will set up classrooms. And so what happens is they will sign up either texting this number or they send an email. And parents can set up too. And it's fun for things like hey, you're presenting tomorrow, don't forget presentation, or hey, potluck tomorrow, don't forget your food, or you know, little fun reminders that just help people be a little bit more organized and not forget about certain things. So it's a quick and easy sign up for teachers, students, and parents, and we'll look at that in the next slide. And it's user-friendly and free as well. If you could just go back a slide. And then it's purely confidential, phone numbers and emails. It's only one way. So they won't have your number, they can't respond, and you won't see their number, all you see is the name. So there's no way that you can text them like personally, it will go to a group. And then no more I forgot excuses from students, like most of you have probably heard so many times. And what they suggest is not to be sending them too often. Obviously, people will be just checking out after, you know, 5 texts in a day or something. They suggest about 2 a week. And then having students and parents sign up in person has the most success. And so parent-teacher meetings and doing it in front of like your class, presenting this to them, and then getting them to take out their devices and sign up immediately so you can contact them right away. So this is how we sign up. And so I created my own Mrs. Croker's Geography second period message. And so they would sign up, they would text to this number that I actually have set up to access either my email or my phone. And so I actually set it up so that when I send out a message, it comes to me as well. So I know exactly, oh shoot, I made a mistake, or yep, it's sent, that's good. And then this is actually the number that was assigned to that class. And so if I have another class as well, it's a history third period, and so it has a different number here. And all they do is send that, and then I have them in my contacts for that class. And they can also sign up by email, and so this is a good way for parents if they don't want it to go to their phone, they can have it go to their email. And so this is what the home page looks like. It's very simple. If I had a different class, it would be here, and then it kind of shows, I set this one up actually a month before Christmas, and so you can, that way you're not forgetting to send them out, you can be organized, and if you say, oh, I should send a Remind 101 about that, then you can set it up to go out on a later date. And that I found was really fantastic, and so it keeps track of your history. And there's also the app for the iPhone and the Android, so that's pretty handy, I found.
Is it date and time?
Yes. Is it time? You know what? I think because it sent at 1:30, and I think I sent that so that it wouldn't send at like midnight. Yeah. That, yeah.
It's a one-way Twitter, right?
Sure.
You can't
Yeah.
have that two-way interaction, so
Yeah, no arguing or anything. So this is another tool I found really useful. Once I found this, I was like, oh my gosh, jackpot, I'm going to use this. So this is Educanon. And what it does is you make videos interactive. So those videos that you're assigning to your students from YouTube or TED Talks or whatever it is, you take and you put on this program. So all you do is you make a username for this, and you copy and paste a link into this website, and then as you're watching it, you can insert questions, and they're multiple choice. So that way it'll stop the video as the students are watching, and they have to answer the question. You can also track their progress. So what I found amazing about this is you can tell which student, because they sign in under their name, you can tell which student answered what question and what they answered. And so you can see exactly what concepts students are getting and which ones students might need a little bit more refreshing, maybe for you to explain a little bit more. So you can also add feedback to each answer your students select. So when you make your multiple choice, you can actually put, if they select that one, you can put, oh no, sorry, this is easily confused or whatever, and just a little explanation to make sure that, you know, the student understands his mistake. You can also assign them to your students. So if you have multiple classes, like most teachers do, they make groups, and then they assign for certain days which videos they need to watch. And so we'll see that in a later slide. You also monitor, like I said, your students' answers to see exactly who has trouble with the concepts, and students need to create an account and add themselves onto your class. So that I found was maybe a little bit of a setback, but then I found out that the teacher can actually see every student's username and password. So if a student is like, well, I lost my username and my password, which happens, then you go onto your site, as long as you remember your username and your password, then you can actually tell them, oh, okay, this is what it is, write it down or something, and, you know, problem solved, not, well, try and figure out, try and remember, you know, whatever else you go through. So this is how to get started. There's 3 steps. So you build it, you assign it, and then you monitor the progress. And so, like I said, you go on the website and you just copy and paste the link to whatever video you like. And then once you're done inserting all the questions, like you see here, they just ask the question at 14 seconds into the video, and it was inserted. It's really, really simple, and there's actually tutorials on every step. So if you forget here, you go online and they have the tutorials for you. It is so simple, like it kind of blew my mind. Because I was thinking like, oh my gosh, this is going to take hours to figure out, and it really didn't. And so this is how you assign it. So all of your videos that you've made will appear in this column, and then you just like drag and drop on the date. And that's when they need to watch it by. And so, yeah, it was just really, really simple. And this is how you monitor your students. So you'll see Harvey Longfellow answered A for question 1, or B, or whatever. And then, so you see this is period 1, and this is the video. So this would be the class that you've assigned it to, and then this is the name of the video that you've assigned to them. And then this is what the teacher's profile page is like. So like I said, this is the student's username, and then the temporary password over there, or whatever their password is at the time. So I found that super useful. So how the students sign up to your page is using this teacher search code. So once they get in, I didn't go on the student side of things, but they just have to type this in a certain spot to find you, and then you can start assigning things to them. Okay, the next one is Memrise. This one is a little bit more fun, and this was like, they did a bunch of research on how you learn. And so they created games. They created competitive games, and they created, like, sometimes you get timed and they're repetitive as well. So you actually learn the things that you are going through. So I did one that was Geography of Canada. And sometimes it was a little bit redundant, but after a while I was getting competitive because it was asking me the same questions, but in different ways. And so it was like, select from the options, and then I had to type it in a certain amount of seconds, and it was like, I knew all the answers, but I was like so into it. So I figured, you know what, this is an awesome tool for students to be engaged. And so they're learning with a game-like program. And each user needs to have their own account, which is, again, sometimes a little bit difficult trying to keep track of your password and everything. You can see how others are doing in their lessons if you choose to follow each other. So again, you can track your students' progress if you assign a certain game or whatever it is. You can see if they did it or not. And then you can create memes. And so this is what I kind of found really cool about this website, is that if you're having trouble remembering something in one of the quizzes, you click this button and it says create a mem, and then it goes under your profile, and it makes like that memory for you. And then after you have a few of them, you can make a quiz of just those things that you don't remember, and it'll generate that for you. And then if you cannot find the lesson you would like to assign to students, you can create one. So like Desiree mentioned, French teachers have a lot of difficulty finding resources, so you can actually go in here and create your own lessons. So I found that pretty cool. So this is the profile page. Like you can see, I did Canadian geography, and I attempted to kind of start Géographie du Canada. Didn't really get into that too much, but it seemed really simple, and so it was just like inputting the questions and then the answers or the options or the ways they wanted to ask you. The way they use this is they kind of make it like a plant system. So you plant a seed, and so that's when you like decide that you're going to make, or you're going to take this quiz, and then you water it and so forth, and you overwater if it's a concept that you know and you just want to practice again. So there's a bunch of different categories on Memrise that are here, and they're options, and they all have a lot of lessons. And you can also select the language that you speak. And so Memrise is really known for learning other languages. And so as you can see, learn basic German, learn basic Mexican, Spanish, Mandarin, reading survival. So if you select English as a language, it will not show up learn basic English, which makes a lot of sense. The next one is Edmodo, and I'm sure that this is something that a lot of teachers are using right now. It's just a networking site, and you create your own file. You can assign assignments, polls, quizzes, all sorts of different things, and you actually join communities as well, and teachers share all the resources on there. And so for me as a starting teacher, this is definitely somewhere where I would go for different resources, and it can be things like, what is the best Romeo and Juliet movie? And so a teacher from like England will answer and say, this one is awesome, it's recent, it's really good according to the book and everything. So this is what the homepage looks like. And so these are the communities that I've joined. This is my classroom. And then you can put alerts, assignments, quizzes, and polls. All right, this one, we didn't have enough time to really do much research on, but we know that this is kind of like the Edmodo of Manitoba. And so Blackboard, I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but post material online, learn virtually, and more.
Apparently the province of Manitoba bought the license for the Blackboard software, so we were actually hoping you knew a bit more about it than we did. It's essentially the same thing as Edmodo, so kind of an online Facebook, similar to Facebook, but for parents and teachers and students. And Blackboard is similar to that, and apparently Manitoba has the province-wide license to use this software, so we wanted to put it in there. So we at least we're aware of it, but we haven't had time to explore it that much more. Obviously, this one was mentioned this morning. It's probably one that you're familiar with. It's the Smart Notebook technology. So it goes with the Smartboard, but there's a button on the Smartboard where it's kind of the little X, and actually you can just access this by going straight to the website. You do need to have the notebook software, and you do need to create yourself an account. It is free. However, it is a variety of learning materials, lessons planned, interactive lessons, and course content that has already been developed. The reason it's called Exchange is that teachers post their lessons on there, and it's a sharing platform for teachers. The content is not tremendous when it comes to French content, like Maria Nick mentioned. However, it is content that can be downloaded for free, and you adapt the content and the lesson plan according to your needs. So, very useful tool for instead of reinventing the wheel and starting off scratch, you can start off of a platform. So, very, very useful for new teachers or any teacher for that matter to know of this tool, this website. Weebly is an online free, again, this is the one that we used, is Weebly.com, to create blogs, to create websites. Back in the day, you needed to have computer skills, programming skills, HTML skills, whatever it may be. Nowadays, it's totally user-friendly, totally dynamic. If you're familiar with Word and how to log into your emails, you can build yourself your own website. So it's actually one of our homework assignments. Each one of us has to develop its own. We have to develop our own website, our own blog, because teachers of tomorrow are expected to be able to do these types of things. So that's what we're doing this afternoon. We're going to go do our homeworks. And I'm not sure I think that's what you're using as well as Weebly. So I'm using it for my assignment as well. I think you're using Wikispaces. The variety of tools that are out there for teachers to develop blogs and websites. And this is a very popular one. Poll everywhere, we wanted to put it in here as well, and if we have time, we'll actually do a poll with you in the room here. It's useful, especially for reviewing course content and material. Yeah. So you can develop questions and whether they be open-ended or closed types of questions, and students interact directly, and you see the results appear on screen right as you're interacting with students in the classroom. So if we have time at the end, we'll do a quick poll. So your Webutation, we wanted to put it in there because for those of you that are not familiar, the MTS has a brochure and they have obviously information on their website. And the key point is to, be careful, when you're posting stuff on the internet, especially for teachers. One thing that we were taught is that we're teachers. It's more than it's more than just an employment. It's a vocation. So you're basically on 24/7. You have to be careful whatever you do in society or in the virtual world. And for simple things like Facebook. I'm not sure who here has a Facebook account or who uses Facebook. Personally, I don't. So it's something that you have to be very, very careful with what you're posting. We were told, and it's probably true, we'll likely be applying in your school divisions in a few years or a few months in 2015 in September. So we'll see you back at that time. But we were told that employers nowadays, the first thing or one of the first things that they do is they'll Google the name of the person that they're hiring, right? So if all the results that come up are negative or questionable, it raises some red flags. So for teachers and administrators, you absolutely have to know what your Webutation is. So if you haven't done it before, Google yourself, put your name in and the city Winnipeg and see what the results generate. So whether it's your Facebook profile or what you were doing in Mexico when you took your holidays last Christmas, be careful with what you're posting online. Know what your Webutation is, your reputation online is. We wanted to put this in here as well, simply because it's a concept, and for those of you that want access to the links, there's some great information, a great interview here on CBC Spark. I think it's every Sunday at 1 o'clock on CBC Radio. There's an interview with, there's a thematic content that keeps coming up. It's technology in the digital world, in the world nowadays. And one interview here that we added the link is of a few teachers that have implemented the flipped classroom concept. So for those of you that want to go listen to what they're kind of living through and what they're encountering with their students, with their parents, very, very interesting concept. There's obviously a conference coming up this summer I think it's in BC, Okanagan College in Kelowna. So it's an entire conference dedicated to the flipped classroom model, which apparently is very big in the U.S. and is coming up here more and more in Canada as well. So again, it's where the lesson plans are delivered. The teacher records a video, records his lesson in a 15-20 minute video that the students watch at home, and the classroom time is liberated for homework and assignments and one-to-one teacher-to-student relationship time. There's our website, by the way. So we have a variety of information there that we've posted on our site for those of you that want to access it. And again, the big question of today, or this morning anyway, was what's the balance, right? Because we can't ignore the real life, the real interaction with human beings, between students and teachers. We have to find that right balance between technology and no technology. So there's our website for those of you that want access to it. We wanted to watch a few videos, and since we have time, we'll probably watch one. This is a very interesting one. So the link is here, or you can just Google or YouTube, do a search for New Brunswick Public Education, and you'll kind of see what they're doing and kind of their take on technology in schools. But if you don't mind, Jen, we'll leave the presentation. And we found this the video, the interview with the Governor of Maine, Angus King. So it's I think it's a 4-minute video, but he kind of touches on a few of the points, and we'll let him speak.
Of the project was to phase in a year each year, go all the way to high school. Then budgets collapsed in 2000. better than I thought. We thought it was a good idea back in 2002. In retrospect, my thinking has gone through sort of an evolution. Good idea. Then I realized about the second year in that it was really a radical idea because of involving the students, individualized learning. I mean, this is a list of, you know, what everybody's chasing in education and has been for 100 years. It really seems to be happening. The laptops allow a level of connection and engagement in real stuff. Searching out, for example, the program use the laptops to analyze water data or invasive species, and you know, they're acting like scientists. And that's real, and it has a kind of intrinsic interest that, particularly for kids that aren't, you know, all that linear. And I mean, if you think about it, our education system is really designed for certain kids. And there are kids who are very bright, but who that's just not the system that they're going to be, they're not going to shine in that system. And the laptops are enabling kids to do all kinds of different ways to present what they're doing. And that's one of the strengths. It allows a kind of individualization that is impossible if it's, okay, everybody write 5 paragraphs. One of the things I've learned from this is execution is as important as vision. You can have a great idea that makes sense and everybody says, aha, but if it's not executed right, if the network doesn't work, if the computers crash, or if the teachers, the biggest learning is if the teachers aren't properly prepared and a lot of professional development, it just isn't going to work. We're now trying to build on what we've learned and really take the professional development to the next level. That's the biggest part of it. If you hand out the laptops and don't do the professional development, it's going to fail. There's just no question. It's not as expensive as people think. In Maine, our project, we can put real hard numbers on it. It's $9 million a year for every 7th and 8th grader in the state, plus professional development, tech support, network. That's the whole package. And that represents about 0.4% of our annual school budget in the state. So we're talking about 1/2 of 1%. It's not a massive program, 9 million out of over 2 billion. And when you look at it that way in terms of its impact and potential impact, how long do you have to think about that? I mean, if I came to you at the school board and said, I'm going to give you something that's going to significantly improve writing scores, which everybody's interested in, we can talk about that in a few minutes, but it's also going to decrease discipline problems, increase attendance, and provide your students with true 21st century skills, and it's going to cost about the same as your snow plowing budget. It seems to me it's pretty hard to say no. What I tell people is don't promise standardized test scores, because the tests don't test what the laptops teach. We're doing 1980s testing when we want 21st century skills. Solving problems, collaboration, and use of information. That's what the laptops teach. But the testing, the standardized testing that we're doing is testing, you know, when did Columbus discover America, and, you know, what's 8 times 17? And so there's a mismatch here, and that's why I think maybe at some point we'll be able to design tests that really test, you know, 21st century skills. So that's why I tell people, don't promise standardized test scores, and you've just got to calm the politicians down, because all they want is test scores, and there's a heck of a lot more than that at stake.
For more information about what works in public education, go to edutopia.org.
Okay, well, any questions?
Question, you've got kids logging on to a whole bunch of different things,
Yeah.
and I guess part of the question, issue is again, privacy and understanding what you're logging into, so if you get the Educanon, the Remind 101, and you have families, what are the implications of that?
Yeah, it's definitely something. I mean, I would say teacher training to properly give that professional personal development to train people as to how to use this information, how to use these websites, how to keep things private. You know, the beautiful thing with Remind 101 is that it is a completely one-way street and it's completely private. So it's to circumvent the Twitter aspect, whereas you can develop that two-way relationship. Remind 101 is completely different to address those privacy issues.
Somebody's holding that.
And that's part of those 21st century skills that need to be taught, is to be careful what you're accessing, when you're accessing, and what you're looking at. You know, it's definitely something, and I mean, we saw it in some of the results, some of the studies where, you know, 21st century skills and training teachers is definitely something that has to be taken into account. And you can't just go onto any site and give, you know, free reign. Okay, let's do some research in class. Go look at any site you want. No, you know, you have to really, really keep the reins tight on what they're accessing.